Alright. How are we all? Keep running for me, President Runday. Why are you so scared to debate me? I don't know if that's a joke or if you actually wanted to debate me on something. I don't recognize you. Sorry. Put it to COVID brain fog, okay? Don't take it personally. Hey, Palm Dad. Alright. I apologize for my voice. I'm still in the mend. But we have two things on the docket tonight. Two short things, because I don't know what my stamina is like. Dubiously friend of the channel, Synth is debating someone called Jeem on Utilitarian versus Biblical Ethics. I don't think we're going to stick around for the whole thing of that, but I am curious to see what comes up during that. Afterwards, there is a video by a tiny channel called Mono, by the look of it, on how the is-ought gap is vacuous. I'm intrigued, so we'll look at that, and that seems to bear thematically on stuff that'll be covered in the Utilitarian versus Biblical Ethics debate, so. Thank you, Naomi, appreciate that. Blessed be the shadow government and their funds. Amen. Alright. Let's get the show on the road. And as usual, if you want to skip to the theory, if I get to $100 in super chats, I give you theory options and we jump immediately to that. We skip whatever it is that we're doing. Whenever you see this bar here, that means there is a $100 button to skip to the brain stuff. We'll see how bad this debate is. Maybe you'll really want that. Hopefully not that bad. I'm kind of hoping it's not that painful, but we'll see. So this is Synth versus Jeem, Utilitarian versus Biblical Ethics. We're actually talking to Andrew from the Crucible tomorrow night, so it should be interesting. Alright. Hold on to your butts.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to The Crucible. I'm your host, Andrew Wilson. Tonight, we've got a great debate for you.
Hi, Andrew.
Between Synth, who is returning to The Crucible after a hiatus. He is a political debater as well as a philosophical debater.
Is Synth a she? I've seen Synth go by he on multiple things. And I don't know if Synth is just being thick-skinned about it or if there's been some change. Someone confirm for me.
Just something that, I always try to save for when the politics comes back around, but we're moving in the political cycle. So you'll probably be seeing a lot more of entangling up with the more high-profile right-wingers. So this is kind of his...
Hang on, what's this? Oh, thank you, Shy Hiller, for the $20 to the Spice Reserves. Much appreciated. Okay, let's, And, thank you, PF Young, for the $10. Oh dear, that's loud. Why is that so loud? Why can't I get off this screen? God damn it. Okay, hang on. Okay, let's mute that for a moment. Okay. We want... no sound. Maybe a little bit of sound. Tiny bit of sound. And we want... windowed. It's on borderless, but it's not actually borderless. That's... odd. Let's go with full on windowed, see if that works. Oh, that's better. Okay. However, now I can't see the thing, so I think what I'll do is I'm going to pop this over here. And... no, hang on. I don't want the tab, I want the whole thing. I'm going to pop this over here. Going to narrow that a little bit. And we're going to use the right screen orientation one. There we go. That'll do. Yeah, PF Young, we're going to be debating / discussing something to do with Jordan Peterson at some point in the near future. When my voice is better. Probably in the next week. I've got 1 or 2 conversations coming up this week, so we'll be able to gauge that pretty well then. And there we go. Sweet. That works. Alright. As we were. Oh, and I suppose I should upgrade the, I should update the theory bar. So we are at... come on. 35. So we are on our way. Alright. Oh boy, I have to clear this desk off. I have to do a book purge, I've got too many. Oh, that's loud. That is way too loud. Oh, maybe we should do that. Okay, we'll see how long it takes to catch up. Maybe we'll jump in. That could be interesting, so let's go. Oh, unless this is no, it's a stream. It's not a premiere. Yeah, I was gonna mute this. This is accurate. I've spoken to Synth before. Synth can be tricky to get along with. But they've grown on me. Someone find out what their pronouns are, so I'm not being weird about it. Alright. Oh, I'm back here again. Okay. Oh, is the video muted? Why is... Oh, shoot.
Is a libertarian. I think it's
Okay.
you're a socialist, aren't you?
Sorry, guys. You didn't miss anything. It's okay. They were just doing introductions of, like, their persons. No, I had it muted because Quake 2 was blasting a second ago. God damn it. This is a vintage experience most newcomers to the channel haven't witnessed, which is me starting the first 30 minutes of every single stream with the audio just gone.
Yeah, I'm a socialist.
Thank you, Naomi, for alerting me to the mute.
I'm ready. All right. So this is biblical morality. An explanation, the basis for its implementation, by, of course, me. The basics of the morality of Moses. The Torah, or
gotta
5
look
books
at
of
this.
Moses,
What is
teaches
this?
us that man is the image of God and guardian of the world, Genesis 1:27. That
Apparently
any
the
who
menu
sheds
doesn't
the blood
pause
of
the
man, his
game.
blood must be shed, Genesis 9:6. At the very start, we are instructed on the inherent value of the life of man outside of our own personal survival. Unless it benefits us personally, there is no reason outside of this theology to care about the well-being of other people. Morality and philosophy have no survival-based benefits. Therefore, whatever you want men to do, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets, Matthew 7:12. Christ teaches us to treat one another fairly, but this is contingent on the law and the prophets as a system of legalistic morality and punitive order. We cannot treat someone fairly according to nothing. We can only treat them fairly according to the fairness defined by the law. Without a proper definition, there is no such thing as fairness by itself, as it is subjective. The books of laws give us a clear guideline on how to establish order in society.
Hang on, no. Something being subjective doesn't mean there's no such thing as it. It just means it's subjective. Your subjectivity exists. Your subjectivity is subjective.
The law of Moses emphasizes the life of man over personal property, the opposite of other ancient law systems, such as the Codex of Hammurabi and the law systems of the Assyrians. These books entail the intrinsic truth of tribalism, the reality of this world. Although we must treat others fairly, we are expected to adhere to a common system of morality. Furthermore, there is zero tolerance of other systems of law according to Moses and to God who sent him. What God commanded Moses to preach is an objective morality. Accountability. The Torah teaches us that punishment for sin is always death.
Oh.
The atonement sacrifice is a means to avoid death in a national context for certain sins to survive in the land of Canaan. This ensures a system of accountability. Although Christ took on the punishment for our sins in order to give us the gift of eternal life, we are accountable for our own personal sin, as the Israelites were in contract at Sinai for the right to live on earth in Canaan. Life is not just about personal benefit and selfish desire. Speaking of, the Torah does not call anything a right
Oh,
except for
actually,
life
I
itself.
think...
Food is not a right, even though it is a need. Needs and wants are not to
good.
be
I think I
conflated,
can
and
use
even
the-
needs are not rights. Water is a need,
Perfect.
but it is not a right, since I still have to pay for it. And even if it were free, I would have to pay the state taxes for the discounted services and the government workers who would need to manage and purify this.
Hey, what is this? Torah teaches us that the punishment for sin is always death. The atonement sacrifice is a means to avoid death. Life is not just about personal benefit and selfish desire. In utilitarianism, accountability is measured by a constantly changing morality of secular humanism, which a couple of 100 years ago would have been horrified at the things considered permissible in today's world. Yeah, but flip that around. Secular humanists were horrified at the slavery that was permitted in Scripture. Anyways.
Water for us, so it's still not really free since it
my
requires
dad?
someone
God
else's
damn it.
labor. This is tribal reality. Christ teaches us that we are
Tribal
accountable for our
reality.
own sin and not to hypocritically mete out judgment before looking at our own personal lives, Matthew 7:3-5. We're judged on how we lived our lives before Christ, the final judge. However, Christ also teaches us to do the Father's will on earth as it is in heaven, Luke 11:2. God judges us in the afterlife, but in the pain of two witnesses we judge on the earth. As the witnesses prove,
He's
that the sin or
sermonizing, this
act
isn't a
had an
debate.
impact on society itself.
Well, it's not an argument, rather.
In
It is a debate,
utilitarianism,
obviously.
accountability is measured by a constantly changing morality of secular humanism, which a couple of 100 years ago, people would have been horrified at the things considered permissible in today's world. There's no uniform morality, and thus no uniform accountability, as today's murder could be tomorrow's petty theft. Utilitarians, especially socialists, conflate needs and wants, and conflate both of those with rights. Monarchy is superior to every other constitution and form of government. For polyarchy, where everyone competes on equal terms, is really anarchy and discord, Bishop Eusebius. The ideal state for Eastern Roman Christianity was imperial monarchy. The ideal law system was the Codex of Justinian, considered today a masterpiece influence on all of Western civilizational law. It utilized the morality of the law of Moses, reflected in Christ, and implemented punitive ordinances to maintain civilization. I do not, however, support the czars prior to the revolution in Russia, as they'd become far too liberalized and compromised by reforms, particularly under Peter the Great and his inspiration from Scandinavian secularism. Justinian is the gold standard, at least for the Orthodox, the inheritor of the ferocity of the ante-Nicene fathers and the discipline of the Eastern Roman culture. And there's nothing integrally religious in either
Come on, get me a
democratic
better
or
gun than
Republican
this.
systems. They're built entirely on the inherent and inevitably changing expression of whatever happens to be popular at any given moment of time, and thus there is no objective truth, nor do they seek it.
Oh, is the video
Here's a
screen black?
critique of
God
the
damn
rights
it.
of man, the French Revolutionary Declaration of the
This is
Rights of
so
Man.
frustrating.
Men
Okay.
are born and remain free and equal in rights. Social distinctions may be founded only upon the general good. This
so
is
annoying.
creed here in our country with Thomas Jefferson's famous words, all men are created equal. But the most obvious problem with this principle is the relationship between parents and children. Children are human and thus must be equal. But obviously, children are not literally equivalent in responsibility.
Children aren't
ability,
literally
power,
human.
or to anything else in order compared to adults. First, the invocation of value is completely arbitrary. Which theory of value are we talking about? Marxist labor theory, Austrian subjective theory, maybe the Aristotelian utility theory? According to the
Austrian subjective theory. What? Austrian subject... I think he's showing his hand here a little bit.
Bible, immoral people have no value, whether they are intelligent or not. Second, appealing to rationality as the basis for equal human value and equality of opportunity is the theology of the Church and its doctrine of humanity as God's image. TLDR, if you use the argument that humans must be equal because they are rational, you're just a Christian in rebellion to God. And of course, this is some extra material on communism and the lack of authority for children to parents, but I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. And here's a critique of utilitarianism and of John Stuart Mill's philosophies.
I just want to let you know, Jeem. I stopped the clock just to let you know you still have about 2 minutes. I just wanted to kind of give you the guideposts so that you knew. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. So John Stuart Mill, sometimes or often called the forefather of utilitarianism, erroneously argued that the only reason something is desirable, e.g. good, is that people actually desire it. In this vein, couldn't it be argued that tens of millions of
You know, there's a Bible story about God extending the day so that I think the Israelite warriors could fulfill a battle before the evening or something. It's a very weird thing when Christians lose debates due to their opening statements running past the time limit.
Germans in the 1930s unanimously decided to genocide certain people? Does genocide of minorities become objective, truthful morality now? If you are utilitarian, how could you dare to go against the desire of this people when it is both what they wanted as well as what could have been the best possible outcome for white Germans in the Second World War? There's no objective truth in this system. What is desirable for me, biblical theocracy, such as Justinian's reigns, and true in my eyes, is not necessarily true for my opponent. And according to Popper, truth is proposition without error, but there is intense error in this system. If there's any time left, I'd just like to relinquish that and I guess stop sharing the screen.
That was awful.
Now, Synth, you have 7 minutes on the clock as well. If you have specific points on that PowerPoint, because there was a lot that he brought
God, I need a
up,
better
and you
gun.
wanna
This gun
request
is
that it be
awful.
brought back up, I
It,
think
like, it
that's
is.
completely
There's
fair.
no area of effect. It's
Go
a
ahead
pea
whenever
shooter.
you're ready.
Ah.
Sure.
What
yeah,
the
a couple of instances there. Yeah, philosophy and morality have no survival benefits is a claim that you made. That's false. Obviously, being able to do logic and reasoning is the core of philosophy, and that is clearly going to have a survival benefit. Also, having access to stance-independent reason has survival benefits, not just for large-scale civilizations, but for you as an individual having access to stance-independent reasons. It's good for you. Not just because you can be in compliance with what other people want. That's not necessary.
This isn't a good argument.
Synth, move your mic a little towards yourself.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Yeah, but
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. So in short, philosophy and morality certainly do have survival benefits. And I'm down to talk.
This isn't a good counter. Like, sure, you can imagine situations in which they have survival benefits, but typically when we're talking about morality in this key, we're talking about things like altruism, which can lead to self-sacrifice at a level that actually removes the survival advantage, or like nullifies the survival advantage of, how do we put this? Negatively acts on the survivability of the altruistic agent. So you can imagine it in both ways. This is not a very strong counter. I think what's happening is Synth is being overly agreeable, so to speak, and is simply onboarding the critiques that their opponent is fielding, and not really picking their battles very carefully.
About that if that's where he wants to go with this, but I don't think it's totally totally relevant to the debate. But in utilitarianism, morality is not uniform. It's another claim G made. False. There's no morality more uniform than the idea that morality is defined by a sole rule, not a large set of rules, not particularism, but one ultra generalist moral framework, which is utilitarianism, which is there's one guiding principle. All men are created equal, but this can't be true because of parents, was a claim G made. Parents and children aren't equal. You're not created a parent. You're not created parents. Jim also made this argument regarding the Holocaust. What wouldn't utilitarianism advocate for the Holocaust?
Stay away from that word if you don't mind.
Oh yeah, sure, I got you. Yeah. Wouldn't utilitarianism advocate in favor of the 1930s thing that was really bad? No, it's way worse on the individuals who are harmed than the number of people who want that to happen, and their wants aren't even long-term good for them. I don't think it was good for the people who did that bad thing. I have to say about like that. Point being, I'll get into my opening statement, and I'll disappoint a friend of mine who was demanding that I just cede my opening time. So me and Jim are probably both going to present ourselves as the correct kind of moral realist. A lot of the very low IQ debates between realists are usually just trading reductios. So I'd say something like, well, if God told you to cut a baby's dick tip off, would you do it? And then Jim would say something like, well, if it maximizes utility to kill one person to save 5 from a train, would you do it? And then we'll both try to argue about which is less intuitive. That's really silly. And we've already had 500 of those debates. So instead, let's just go with a different but more accurate thought process, since we're both moral realists and we don't think that our subjective intuitions are what defines morality. Let's try to just figure out, what does the evidence weigh in favor of if realism is true? Utilitarianism or biblical morality? We're both moral realists, so that should be the methodology we're both okay with. Well, if you were to try your best to get a generalist ethic out of the Bible, you'd probably very possibly end up with utilitarianism. It's totally likely that you could.
Could you?
But probably the most likely biblical morality is just particularism.
How?
So particularism, unlike generalist theories,
Wait.
especially utilitarianism, it's not very law-like. If morals are
How could you possibly? Andrew 556 or 762 barrel length and ballistics. What? I don't understand, but thank you for the $2, Steven. Oh wait, that's not me. Oh, I'm looking at their super chats. Dear God. All right, never mind. That's embarrassing.
and stance independent, and we start out neutral, so we can analyze the evidence realistically. We'd expect them to be like other real and stance independent domains. So say again?
I was saying it's his opening. Go ahead.
Okay. So mathematics, physics, and other hard sciences, logic.
Sunday, what's your opinion on group and kin selection in relation to altruism? I find Robert Sapolsky's lecture on these topics fascinating. I haven't read Robert Sapolsky or heard Robert Sapolsky on this topic. I tend to think... I think that kind of misses the point. It misses the point here, at least. If the point is something to the effect of altruism confers some kind of survival benefit on the group, because I don't think we really work that way. I think Dawkins is correct in that respect. The selectivity takes place below the level of what we as scientifically minded humans recognize as a species or something.
Etc. are all very law-like. Stance-dependent domains are all very arbitrary and not very law-like. So music and movie opinions, etc. We also see a convergence towards certain kinds of values in the stance-dependent domains. What we see is actually a divergence in the in the stance-dependent domains, but we see divergence in stance-dependent domains. So, for example, once again, music and movie opinions. What are some other things that we see in the stance-dependent domains? Well, we see that we progress more in them as we progress more in general as time moves on. Does the Christian ethicist think this? Well, no, not really. The average conservative Christian will probably say that we've even significantly degraded over time. The utilitarian, generally liberal, certainly does think we, despite having pretty bad earlier primitive ethics, have made more progress.
Utilitarians are
the
definitionally
abolition of
liberal.
slavery and racial equality, gay rights, and so on. Stance-dependent domains also generally are able to make testable predictions. In the case of moral progress, extremely early utilitarians, like somebody who's mentioned by Jean J.S. Mill, or another person who is considered the father of utilitarianism, Bentham, were broadly very ahead of their time on moral progress. So, for example, as mentioned earlier, an abolition of slavery, universal suffrage, gay rights, all of these were things that J.S. Mill and Bentham believed in. Utilitarianism was right on these even 300 years ago. Now, the Bible and the
Here's what immediately frustrates me about bringing up Mill in the first place. If you read Mill, one of the things that will strike you is that, while he is a utilitarian, he still has a notion of virtue that is not solely dictated by a notion of utility. There's a little bit of Aristotle or that kind of approach in there. That famous line, like, better, I'm butchering it because it's not exactly wording, but better Socrates dissatisfied than a pig satisfied, is precisely that. Because you can numerically, along a single term system, maximize quote-unquote utility, but end up with beneficiaries of an extraordinarily low quality, the existence of which is worth less on a different scale than a non-utilitarian practice, I suppose, might produce. That, to me, is the strongest retort to what's his name? Jeem? To what Jeem was arguing here, because what it shows is that while you can have a utilitarian calculus motivate, for example, decision. Ow. What is the point to this? Motivate decisions. That doesn't mean that it has to be greedy and take over your reasoning for why you do literally everything. You can be a utilitarian and, incidentally, deploy non-utilitarian reasoning to justify things that you do. You don't have to, in all cases, robotically follow a single calculus, even if, in like a social or a political context, you think that that's the best way to go.
The other hand, is often just used to reinforce whatever biases the reader already has. So if you were an abolitionist Christian ethicist, you'd say the Bible agrees with you. If you were a pro-slavery Christian ethicist, you'd say the Bible agrees with you as well. If, instead of particularism, you for some reason think that deontology is actually more like Christian ethics, then we could just start going through all the hilarious shit that Kant said in the Metaphysics Moral as well, like returning battered...
Why can't it take place on both levels? A species is itself an organism of a sort, just like an institution is an organism. I would defy both. I don't think a species is an organism, and I definitely don't think an institution is an organism. I think that's very wrong.
To their husbands, the moral wrong of organ donation, and other things that are hilarious in hindsight. But to round off, utilitarianism being true does not rely on the existence or non-existence of God. One more point in favor of utilitarianism.
Okay, and utilitarianism being true. Utilitarianism isn't the kind of theory that can be true. It's like an ethical methodology you deploy. You sign on to utilitarianism. It's not written in the clouds.
It doesn't turn on that. Christian ethics does not just rely on God, but specifically the Christian God for its meta-ethics, which are divine command theory. But one thing, I guess to end it all, one thing that I have a question about towards Jeem is just, what does he believe utilitarianism is? But that's it, that's moping.
Okay, so with that, your opening statement is complete, Synth?
Yep, yeah.
Okay, I appreciate that. Appreciate the opening statement from both gentlemen. If you're just tuning in, remember that you can send in a super chat If you have a question for either debater, we will get to every single super chat. You can do it via YouTube, or you can use the Dono chat link at the top. Totally up to you, whichever way you want to do it. The Dono chat link, I get 100% because I own it, which is always a plus. So be welcome to use.
I should do that.
You would like. We have, again, next week, we have a bunch of debates coming up. We will have a Trash Talk extravaganza in between. Hope you guys enjoy that as well. And with that, gentlemen, the floor is open.
They both seem to be realists, just disagreeing. That ring light died really fast. They both seem to be realists, just disagreeing ones. Yeah, but I don't know why you would be a utilitarian and a moral realist. Utilitarianism is entirely, like, agent subjective. Read the Dune series because of your stream, best ever. It is fantastic. I'm going very slowly because I'm annotating it as I go, because I'm slowly churning out a video essay on it, very slowly. Read this with it. If you can get a hold of this, I'm sure you can find it on LibGen for free. I like my books to be in hard copy personally. I annotate them. That's how I remember them very well. Henry Bergson's Time and Free Will. I'm doing a video essay on Dune through that. So Dune's great. I'm very glad that Brooks bullied me into reading it. It's fantastic.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Cody, for the $2.
So, Jim, that question.
Hey, Merrick, how you doing?
To answer that now, or do you wanna? Is there somewhere you wanna go with this?
Finally,
Well,
a shotgun.
as far as I'm concerned, utilitarianism is the idea of having society set by what is truth and then what is best for those people in society, and weighing what is
What
the
the
best
hell is
option.
that thing?
So
Oh my
you can have
God.
utilitarianism without having any society, right? So if you were in the jungle, right, there's no society around you, you're on a deserted island, you can still act on utilitarianism, even if you were the
What?
Isn't
only
that a
person in the world.
society of people
What?
in the jungle?
No,
How?
I don't take it to be a society of people. I was about to
Why-
say this
why?
to make it super clear. Even if you were the only person in the world, there will still be utilitarian obligations. You just only have
Okay.
them to one person, which would
What?
be the one person doing the
All
actions.
right.
Wait,
But do you agree with what I said about
wait,
truth? though?
what? How would you have utilitarian obligations if you're the only person in the world? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, hey, Demon Mama, how you doing? How? Like, arguably no ethical system has any relevance to a world with only a single agent, because at no point do you have to consider the interests of anything but yourself. How on earth would you have a utilitarian one, though? Why on earth would a utilitarian calculus govern what you ought to do? It doesn't make any sense. It absolutely does make sense. How? Sirius, want to come on and explain how this makes sense to me? Because this makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Because you had mentioned truth a couple times in your opening statement.
What
I mean,
what
is
in regards to
truth-
truth are you? What's the
Yeah,
proposition here?
is truth relevant to your understanding of utilitarianism?
Another one of those. Shoot.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
It's
gonna
not
die.
just irrelevant
I'm gonna
evidence,
die.
right?
Can I go in here?
I'm under the
Is there an
impression
escape
it is.
hatch?
So
No,
I'm
it's just a
objective
hole.
list.
Okay.
One of the things that I believe is on that objective list is truth.
God, this is...
True belief.
Okay.
I'm a
Can you define
deflationist
it?
on truth. Yeah, I'm a deflationist on truth. I think truth is defined by the semantic meaning of the terms expressed. So, the phrase "snow is white" that's
Wait.
true if and only if snow is in fact white.
So it's hypothetical truth. So something is
No.
only true if it is actually true in that hypothetical scenario. Like you just said with
No,
snow
that's
being
not-
white.
No, you don't have to believe the counterfactuals are true even to be a deflationist. What
Hang on
theory
one
of truth
sec.
do you hold to? I don't,
My ring light is flashing on and off for some reason. I'm just going to unplug it. What on earth is wrong with this? Okay. So that cord goes down there. All right. Ugh. Where's that even plugged in? Well, it stopped flashing now, so I think we're fine. Okay. Oh, you're calling me? Hang on one sec. Okay, I'm not going to play Quake during this. The window is bugging me. Hello.
Hello. Is my microphone okay? I'm not blowing out the speakers or anything?
It's crazy loud, but it seems to be okay.
Oh,
Let me
shit.
fix that.
Okay, well,
It's fine. I sorted it. Hello?
hello?
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay, it's all good. Cool. So let me explain why it can make sense, okay? So if utilitarianism is just maximizing utils or happiness or whatever, as long as there are agents that can experience happiness or utility, then you can maximize that utility.
Okay, but when's the obligation?
I mean, this would have to be something that Synth talks about because, I mean, she and I are not on the same wavelength with this, and she and you wouldn't be either. But she's a particular kind of moral realist where she would say that, even if there were no agents existing, then there would still be moral facts because they exist as abstract objects or something like that.
That doesn't work for utilitarian analysis, though. And
I don't see why it could. I don't see why it's inherently different to anything else, though, because why doesn't the reason
why it wouldn't work for utility is because, unlike, for example, some form of the good or some type of Platonic or deontological nonsense, if we're talking about utility, we're talking about something that is co-emergent with the organisms, the utility it is of which, right? So it can't be something that precedes the organisms, because the organisms that are abiding by utilitarian calculus, that utility only exists so long as they do.
Sure, but I don't think that matters, because I think that if they stopped existing, then obviously there would cease to be any obligations, but that wouldn't necessarily mean that it goes away, according to this view. I don't endorse this view.
No, I hear what you're saying. Just the issue I'm having is that it's not clear to me that we've actually established the existence of any obligations to begin with. So to jump from there to justifying the existence of these obligations in the absence of other agents making the obligations to any real conceivable decision in the first place, strikes me as putting the cart before the invention of the world.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with you, because I take on a constructivist view.
Of course you
for
do. You're
most
smart.
Things. Yeah, but it's I don't know. I've seen plenty of smart people take on non-constructivist views, but let's leaving that aside. I think that.
Oh no. So it's not. To be clear, it's not the constructivist nature of it or the non-constructivist nature of it that I have an issue with. I'm actually fine if he wants to or if what does Synth go by? Synth does go by she. Okay, every single time she's been on stream for the last 3 times I've covered it, they've been misgendering her like crazy. So I didn't know if that was something she was fine with.
I think she just doesn't. Think she doesn't talk about it because she's personality wise, it's she's not going to get any headway with these conservatives trying to tell them that she is being misgendered, right?
Gotcha.
And
fair enough.
That's my reading.
Fair enough. Okay, so thanks for the clarification.
Yes.
I don't have an issue with her taking a non-constructivist approach. What I have an issue with is making the utilitarianism itself non-constructive, simply because it seems to necessitate things which we know are already themselves constructed in other ways. So when we're talking about utilitarian obligations, we're talking about obligations that premise contingent facts of the world.
Sure,
yeah.
But I don't know that's not necessarily a problem if you have a general principle maximizing utility for agents capable of experiencing utility. You don't need to have the particulars to say that you should maximize it, right? Like whatever utility is to that agent, you should maximize
Well,
it.
to say you ought to. See, it seems to me like a utilitarian calculus makes sense, and the reason why it's part and parcel to liberalism is precisely because it has to do with it's fundamentally what's that?
I said I resent that
Do you?
because I'm a utilitarian and I'm not a liberal. But
If you're fine, I would say utilitarianism is the last refuge of liberalism in Marxists, but whatever.
okay.
No, but like it's sort of an economic ethical theory. It fundamentally concerns like distribution. That's really where it matters the most. It kind of falls apart when you deal with anything having to do, for example, with honor or revenge or justice or whatever, and that's something that other ethical systems can handle.
I mean, I guess, but I think that I'm pretty anti-revenge. Honor,
Coward.
I don't know. I don't find it very useful. I think it's
Exactly.
Well, but
It's
I don't
not
think it's-
useful. It's not
I think
useful.
it's-
So,
Yeah, but
so
I
the
think that
calculus by which you
here's the
justify
thing.
it isn't like economical in that way. Sorry, continue.
No, I get that other
Yeah.
people. I get other moral intuitions account for these. Sorry, not moral intuitions. Moral theories account for our intuitions about honor and justice better than utilitarianism does. I just don't really care, I guess, because
That's because you
I'm
have
not
no
too-
honor.
Yeah, I just tend not to share those intuitions, I guess. But anyway, point being, I
You'd
don't
be a
think
terrible
that
Klingon.
I don't think that Synth and you share enough common ground that what she's saying is going to like land with you. And I also don't think, to be fair, that her and the other guy, I don't know what the other guy's name is.
Jeem?
Jeem.
Jeem.
Jeem or
Jeem.
Jeem?
Jeem.
Okay, Jeem.
Like cream.
I don't think that, like, I think that Synth is making a mistake by going in on this, both of us are moral realists, so what does the evidence favor if we both agree that moral realism is correct? And I think that that's fundamentally the wrong approach here, because it's not going to... It's just not what Jeem is using to come to his conclusions. He isn't, like, thinking that it's moral realism and then thinking, okay, so what are the moral principles? Like, what does the evidence favor for moral principles? Like, he's just not constructing it that way. So trying to use that as an argument against him is, I think, missing the point, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think that was something similar to my critique earlier. She was trying to say something to the effect of what did I just frickin' say that I can't remember? She was trying to say something to the effect of I completely lost it. We'll just go with what you said, okay? That sounded good.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna press on because I'm fading fast, and I may I'm $60 away from a theory stream, so I may actually have to have a voice.
Okay. I mean, do you want me to stick around to take some load off, or would you rather I leave?
Be my guest. Feel free to shout at your channel while you're doing it.
Okay.
But you'll
you'd
have
to share.
I would have
you
to
have
share
to
my
share
screen.
screen.
God damn it. Okay.
You
Okay.
can go subscribe to Sirius on YouTube, S3RIOS. I have cool videos, and maybe someday I'll make more of them.
All right, here we go. Let me know if you can't hear it.
Seems off topic, but
I can
if you
hear
want,
it.
you can get into it.
Sweet.
I just believe in basic empiricism and deductive truth, and I also.
I
think
just
that's
believe
kind
in
of
science.
A
I was
circular
asking you which
answer.
theory of truth.
Can you answer the
Empiricism is
question?
a weird
Coherency
combination.
theory. Sorry, coherency theory of truth.
You believe in coherency theory?
Is that okay?
Yeah, but you criticize mine for being circular, and you believe that coherency theory is what makes things true? Like, things are true if and only if it's the case that they cohere with each other? Like, there's no internal
Things are
contradiction?
true if you can actually prove they're true. That's the most important
So,
part.
of course-
That's what
What?
Western science is about.
Okay, so
Synth is making a good point here that coherency theory is literally like
here, you're
a
super
sy-
loud. Let me lower your volume a little bit.
Fuck.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
No, it's probably my fault.
Oh,
if I
it's
go,
definitely your fault. That's always a safe assumption. Try speaking again.
yeah, it's hello.
Speak again.
Hardware. Hello, hello.
There we go. Good. Yeah, no, you're fine. Let me control it because that way you're not making yourself lower as I'm making you lower.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
I'm not a philosophy guy, so I'm not a trained philosophy guy. So coherency theory. When I hear that, that just sounds like a pragmatist's account.
I'm not sure, but it's like
Of truth.
I'm not confident enough to say, but coherence is like if your propositions or your web of beliefs coheres with itself, like it doesn't contradict itself, then you're justified in calling it true, which is basically what Synth is saying. But one of the objections to coherency theory is that it is in a sense circular. Like you can make any set of you can make a lot of different sets of propositions coherent with themselves, right?
Well, I think it's kind of in the name. I think the main objection I would have is that when we want to say something is true, typically we don't just mean we want to say that something is justifiable within the context of a system we're signing on to. We want to be able to say, no, this statement is true over this other person's statement, which may be itself like similarly coherent within its own system. So that's not very satisfying, especially in an ethical debate.
No, for sure. And I think it's strange that Jeem is his name. Jeem is like, I don't understand what Jeem is saying. That he's saying that he's like a coherency theorist, but then also is saying that like what's true is what's based on the evidence from modern science. Like I don't
see if you wanted to go the coherence route, as I understand it, what I would have expected him to do would be to try and situate some kind of divine command theory within like sort of a teleological notion of just how God designed the world. So that you can say like there are, in a similar vein to, I suppose how Synth would justify some moral claim based upon a utilitarian calculus, although I don't think much of how she would do that. The thing that would make, for example, the commands in Scripture, specifically moral claims, is that they are either necessitated or implied by the system of the world as created by a loving God or something like that. That's sort of where I would go. You kind of you would de-abstract it a little bit, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll just let them carry on.
Wow, empiricism.
Wait, so you're a positivist?
One moment.
He's a negativist.
That's not what coherency theory is. That's foundationalism.
Is that a thing? Is negativism a thing?
Negativism?
Negativism.
I don't think so.
It's like positivism, just miserable.
No,
well, that's just
foundationalism
positivism.
is when you have foundational principles and
Touché.
the things that follow from them are true. Coherency theory is just there.
I'm not a logical positivist. I told you coherency theory is what
I'm an illogical positivist.
Yeah, I know. I'm
Positivist.
talking about coherency theory.
Yeah,
positivism.
I
That's
think
not
we're getting off
positivist.
to a different track now. We were talking about truth. I was asking what is truth.
Yeah,
You didn't give me an answer on that though.
I did. I told you I was a deflationist.
But what is it then?
I defined deflationism for you. That's what truth is.
Don't look up
Give me a different
deflationist on
example and Snow just so I
DeviantArt.
can wrap it around my head a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So like, Spider-Man crawls on walls, right? That's true if and only if it's the case. The semantic meaning of that is true.
No, my
So,
hydraulic
for example,
rod.
Spider-Man does in fact crawl on walls. Now you could say the
Right.
definition of Spider-Man entails that, and it can be an analytic truth, right? You don't have to have provable truths. There are truths that are non-provable. Certain, like for example, you said you think that you have to be able to prove it for it to be true, but I can name countless things that are probably true.
Wait,
I could name like just things that like either one or
that's
the other.
just like not true. Like you don't have to prove something to be. That's just not true. You do not have to. There are things which are true which there are no proof for. Like that's Gödel's whole contribution.
Well,
right? Like,
you can entertain that notion in your head at the very least.
Yeah.
It's sort of definitionally as you've given it an unprovable statement, but yeah, it's
well, no, because you can prove it exists. You just can't
prove it's true.
like.
But
yeah.
what exists is supposedly a truth. Yes.
Well, yeah, but it's just.
So if you
just
can't
not-
prove it's a truth, you can't prove the true exists.
Sorry.
If you can't prove its truth, then you can't prove that thing qua a true thing is true.
I think you've lost me. I think we should just keep going.
Okay. Let's do that.
And you would
I
have no
win.
idea which. Nobody could prove it. So, for example, is there, if I point in this direction, I'm pointing straight up right now. Is there a star exactly one, not even exactly, is there a star like about 1 million light years in that direction? Like, you wouldn't know, and we might not even be able to prove it. Neither of us might be able to.
About 1 million light years?
If I say along that
Probably
distance,
it's some
nobody on Earth can prove it.
somewhere.
But there's still a truth of the matter. Either it is
Well,
or it isn't
no,
the case.
if-
So saying something's
Right.
true
Not in
doesn't
that
That's like
mean
saying
exact
that's like saying
direction.
Schrodinger's star. Right?
Oh, you mean like? Oh, I see. Sorry, no, sorry. I was thinking of like the trajectory would cross a star.
Yeah, she's saying like, yeah, like if you point in exactly a direction, you go 1 million, probably won't find anything because most of space is empty or not filled with things that we that we would find
Diameter
interesting, I guess.
of
Especially
Milky
not
Way.
stars.
Diameter of Milky Way. 105,700 light years. Yeah, so 1 million light years, you'd be outside of the galaxy. So it stands to reason. Well, actually, no, it doesn't. You'd probably be in
Even
like
if
the
you-
deep void of
Even if you were
intergalactic space.
inside the galaxy, it wouldn't. Most of the galaxy is not stars. So like, if
Yeah, I
you
know, I
went in
just-
any random
yeah, I
direction,
just
you
realized
probably
that.
Wouldn't like find a star.
I didn't have to hand in my brain the size of the Milky Way. I do now, so that's completely useless information. But now I have that.
Either is there or it's not there. But
That's-
it
that's
actually
not-
either is there or it's not though. It
That's the
can't
most-
be.
that's-
I'm saying
that
there's
might-
a star above me.
That might unironically be the most useless piece of information I've learned in my life.
Or sorry, you're saying there might be a star above me, and that's your truth statement. But a might is not.
No, I'm
actually
saying
true.
either there is or
and that's
there
still
is
not a definition.
I'm saying either there is or there is not. One of those two is true, right? One of those two things is true.
Okay, is truth
Okay.
isness?
But
Is
not
truth
neither of them are
isness
proof. Hold
itself.
on. But just to be clear,
Go ahead.
One of those two is true. We both agree with that. Do you agree
One
that
of them.
neither of them are provable?
Sirius, can you help me out? You're an American.
No, neither of them are
Yeah.
not disprovable. You
Sorry,
could-
it's the video is on my end.
You're cutting out as well. I think the connection's a bit choppy.
not.
And now you're gone.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, you're getting
no.
you're getting really
Yeah,
choppy.
that's- Oh. Oh no, that's too bad.
Can you hear me?
Hello, hello. I can hear you.
Sounds like you're behind though. Sounds like you're hearing me after a while. Judging from the length
Hello.
of time it's taking you to respond, I'm going to assume I'm correct. Here, I'm gonna call you again, okay?
Oh,
Hey,
oh, hello.
hey, your connection.
My
is-
internet just cut out for some reason.
You back now?
Yep, I should
Sweet.
be. Hopefully.
Okay. All right, let's press on. Actually, I had a question for you.
Yes. What's up?
An insensitive one, but I am curious. You're an
Yes.
American, maybe you'll know this. When Synth says true, she pronounces it trow. Where is that
Trow.
from? Like she's saying trout. Trout.
Oh, I have.
and I
no
know Destiny
idea.
does
It
that
is-
too. Destiny does that too.
I have no idea. I mean, Destiny grew up in Nebraska, right? So.
Okay, maybe
there,
Nebraska?
but
I don't know.
I have no idea. I didn't know Synth was American, so.
Actually, I don't know that Synth is American. Anyways.
Yeah.
prove one of them.
I didn't say disprovable. I said provable.
No, I disagree that neither of them are provable.
Okay, do you think there's anything that's true that can't be proven, that we just don't know?
If something is true, we only know it's true because we've proven it to be true.
That's not the question I asked you.
That's not the question.
I'm asking
Yeah,
you,
it's-
is there anything that's
God, she's
true,
such a dick,
single
though.
example of a thing which is true,
It's not the question I asked you. Answer the fucking question.
and nobody knows if it is or isn't true.
She's so
I don't
angry.
think so. Not to the best of my knowledge. I'm basing my
Ugh.
sense of reality on what I can actually perceive, not on what may be true.
Okay.
What?
So,
Truth is not
are you familiar
something
with Are
falsifiable.
you familiar with like Gödel's incompleteness theorem?
There we go. See.
Oh, you can talk about that if you like.
There's two, right? There's two incompleteness theorems. But the big important takeaway that's kind of relevant to this conversation is we understand in math there are certain things.
But you
which
said
are
you said
true and
theorem
not
in the
proven.
singular though. That's kind of a dick move. Don't get him for that.
Now,
Right.
Yeah, so there are certain things which are true.
I
and
think
not
she was
proven.
just correcting herself.
No.
Well,
okay.
again, remember, truth is proposition without error. So if it's not provable, that is an error, is it not?
Truth
that's
is
the error of it
proposition
not
without
being-
error.
No.
No.
When you're saying, I declare the sun is warm.
truth is proposition without error.
What?
A statement, a proposition that is without error, we would say is true, but that doesn't mean that truth is proposition without error. I think he's taking the sentence and overextending its meaning.
Maybe. I'm just not sure what he. I'm not sure what the fuck he's
Well,
saying.
I think that's the Popper quote, right? So
Oh.
the idea is if you make a descriptive statement of a thing, and it's not erroneous, then then it's true. It's a statement without error. So,
Yeah, but isn't that like correspondence adjacent and not like coherence? Like that sounds more like correspondence theory than it does coherence theory.
look,
to
this
me.
this is apparently an empiricist who is going to argue that the commands given by a tornado made of fire in the desert are the basis of a moral system. So I don't know either.
I mean, it's not impossible to be a religious empiricist.
It's not at all. But it's a strange thing for him to fall back on in this case, because that's the one thing you can't establish empirically. And like, you can be an empiricist and recognize that there are limits to the capacity of an empirical analysis to yield truth. Maybe you think that that's the best one you've got, and so anything that isn't amenable to empirical analysis just doesn't get elevated to the status of a true belief in your thinking. It's sort of like how you're not necessarily like committed to only deploy a utilitarian calculus just because you prefer one, where it's viable. But we're not at that level yet, so what the hell is this? Anyways.
But I have no proof that it's warm. So there's an issue with my proposition that the sun is warm, because I
But
can't
the sun's
prove
still
that it
warm
actually
even if
is.
you have no proof. It's still true, right?
No, it's if I cannot prove it's true, then I will not know it's true.
Yeah, you not knowing something doesn't mean that it isn't true, right? There are certain things that are true that I don't know.
Oh, so you're saying
It's
based
just
on
the
somebody's
the
own
epistemology
personal
versus
knowledge. I may not
ontology
know if I
distinction.
live in the jungle. I've never heard of math. That 2 + 2 = 4. It's still going to equal 4 whether I know 2 + 2 = 4 or not. I mean, that has no
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
Are you
bearing
saying
on
something?
truth
No.
itself. The 2 +
Yeah,
2
if
is still
nobody
always
knew
going
the
to
two-
equal 4.
Let's imagine nobody exists, right? There's not a single human
Okay.
being, right? Could it be the case there's still an Earth?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said there.
If
Could
there
there
were
be a
no
case that
human
there
beings-
is still an Earth?
Yeah, there could be no human beings and an Earth, right? There could be a
I don't know.
rock floating in space and no humans around.
I don't know. That's not provable, so I don't know.
Okay,
That's-
I would say the
I
answer to
don't-
that question is yes.
Okay.
Me personally, yes. Even if there were no humans, there could still be Earth. There could still be a rock floating in space. And so that could be a thing which nobody could prove because there'd be nobody around to prove
maybe.
it.
I don't know.
Right.
But it would still be
Maybe
true.
there could be.
So even if no humans existed, certain things would still be true and false, right?
But when we make statements about what we declare is true, we have to be
Sunday,
able
are
to
you
know
talking?
it's
Because I
true.
can't hear you.
We're not talking about
No, I'm listening, and I'm
Okay.
managing my
Okay,
ship
I'm just
over
making
here.
sure my internet didn't go out again.
No, it's okay.
Hypothetically, if no humans existed, would the sun still be the sun? You're saying
No, we don't-
if
you don't
I
have-
am
you
a
don't have to
human
know
being
something
and
for it to be
measure
true.
that's what I'm saying though. In the format of this debate, we're talking about us proving what is true. I originally asked you what truth was. Now we're getting off to a tangent about if nobody exists
think
and
that was a
a
tangent.
tree falls in the forest, did somebody hear it? That has nothing to do with
No.
us coming to truth itself.
Well, now, hang on. I don't think that this is outside the purview of this clarifying what you guys think is true before you even get into the meat of the debate. That seems totally fair to me. I just want to make sure that I get this right. Is the overarching question which is being asked to Jeem, you're asking him, are there things which are true that we just haven't discovered yet?
Yeah,
that
or
what
that
you're
couldn't even
asking?
be discovered. Yeah, are there things which are true and could never be discovered? Like if there's something that might be true that we can't prove. Is that
You
possible?
could.
Is that something?
Yeah, you could hypothetically. That could be possible. Yes, I didn't say that that's not possible. I just said if you're going to make a statement saying there is a star above my
did
head,
say it's not
then you would need to
He
have
kinda
proof of that.
did.
Because that was the example you used.
What's that?
I feel like Jeem is either being incoherent or is backtracking because I swear he basically said the opposite, that it's not possible, right? Like, not. Am I totally off base?
I mean, I can give you a very biased opinion on that. I don't think he's making any sense at all. I don't even know what his argument is at this point. We're like 20 minutes in.
I use
There
that
could be a
example to
star
give you a
directly
counter
above
argument to your claim, which is that things have to be provable to be true. I'm telling you, they don't have to be provable to be true.
Right,
Provable
but
means
if there's-
possible to prove.
I'm aware of that, but if there's a measurement for actually finding out if something is true, then by that measurement, it has to be provable to be true. That's what I mean. If you have the potential to prove it's true,
Wait.
you try to prove it's true, and then it's not true. That's the issue. We were kind of talking
What?
past each other.
I feel like I'm more being talked past now because I have no idea what that was supposed to mean. You're
All right,
trying
what
to
I
tell me
meant
that-
what I meant to say was, you were stating that in a hypothetical scenario, would there be something true that we can't prove?
Synth is
I'm
so
saying I
asking
don't
you the
really
real world,
care.
are there-
What's that? What's that?
I said synth is so condescending. It's so funny. Like,
Yeah, she's a dick. You remember that conversation I had with her a while ago? Actually, the last one
she's
was
also a dick
nice.
to me.
The last one was nice. The last one was okay. The first one, like, dear God, I think it was the worst conversation I've ever
she's a dick to me
had.
on Twitter.
Yeah, but it's you, so I understand that.
There's certain things that are provable that aren't true. Or sorry, there are things that are true that aren't provable.
There are
Okay,
some things, such
okay.
as I can't go and physically touch God, but I still know He exists.
Well, I have somebody to introduce you to, my friend.
Things which are true and not provable, right?
Sure.
Okay, so when you said something has to be provable to be true, that
Ultimated, are you there?
would be a contradiction with that phrase, right? That
Ultimate-
statement. Was there two
ultimated.
contradictions?
What's that?
No.
Who's ultimate? You don't remember ultimated Judeo-Christian?
Made it.
All right, your internet's gone. I'm gonna cut the call, okay? It's been a
Fine.
pleasure. It's been a
Okay.
pleasure having you. Thanks
I'm
for coming
sorry.
on. No, I appreciate it. You've gone above and beyond the
Yeah,
call of
that's
duty.
fine.
Take care, okay?
Sorry.
We'll chat again soon. Fix
Take-
your internet. All right,
Okay.
cheerio. Okay.
No, I'm not contradicting myself because I misunderstood your original question. I didn't understand that we were talking about a hypothetical where there was no human.
She was an asshole to me on Twitter, but later we both apologized, and she was very humble and complimentary and kind. Synth is somebody I like Synth. She is an extraordinarily difficult person to get along with, and she gets very, very, very angry, and she is very, very, very annoying when she is. But I've had at least one good conversation with her, and I appreciated that. So, she's definitely more than just a condescension. But dear God, can she be condescending?
Humans involved at all. What I was simply stating was that if something can be measured, then you have
Biblically,
to prove it for it to
ultimately.
be true. So if we know that we can go and see if snow is white, then it would have to be white for me to say snow is white. But if no one can ever find snow, and it was physically impossible to do that, then it's kind of a moot
Here's
point.
snow.
That's where I
Snow right
agree
here.
with you.
The point
on
would
that
still be
second
true or
point.
false. It would still
Right.
be either true or false that snow is white, even if nobody could find any snow.
I agree with that, but we're talking about actually propositioning truth in an argument, not hypothetical truths.
Hypotheticals can be propositions. All proposition means is some statement which is
Okay.
true or false.
Let me ask something. If something is true, can it be unfalsifiable?
If by unfalsifiable you mean not capable of being proven wrong, then yes.
Okay. Is there an example of that?
Wait, we both agreed with
You
this.
just-
Yeah, we gave examples earlier.
Okay, that's good. That's good. What else do you want to talk about other than this truth thing?
You asked the truth.
Oh,
I
No,
don't know.
no.
I'll
Originally,
yeah,
I
wanted to
asked you.
you
I
about
asked
that.
you simply to
Hang on,
define what truth
guys,
was.
hang on. Let's get back to the meat of the debate here. I feel like
Well,
both
this
of you
debate
are
is awful.
clarified now on what you both mean by true.
I'm so
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any fight there anymore. I do think that even though I know people will be like, this is semantics. Semantics are important, and I do
I
think
agree.
that this needed to be clarified. So now let's move in to libertarian versus biblical ethics.
Here we
Seth,
go,
we'll start with
finally.
you have the floor.
You call me a libertarian. Now I'm offended. No, utilitarian. I know what you meant. Yeah. Yeah. So
Wait, can I?
Did I
sorry,
say libertarian?
you
Sorry.
did.
I
was
add
on-
one?
yeah.
Oops.
You did.
Could I add one clarification to what I had said earlier?
Yeah, sure,
before
go-
you
go
begin
right
on
ahead.
libertarian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I asked about it being unfalsifiable, I was going to say that God is provable and God is also falsifiable, because unfalsifiable means there are no conditions in which something is false. But if God is in heaven, you can go there or not, and then that proves whether or not he is falsifiable.
Okay. Yeah. So what I was gonna say is just what do you? I think I already asked what do you think utilitarianism is, and I think I know you gave a thing in your opening that gave me an intuition that maybe you just weren't sure, which is that you said in utilitarianism morality is not uniform. So why? What do you take it?
Was
to
the
for
video too quiet?
Morality to be uniform. If some moral system is uniform, what do you think that would mean? What does
There
it
you
mean
go.
for you morality to be uniform?
That would mean that all things are just and fair in every part of the world.
You know what it is?
Morality would be the same,
Hang on.
depending on
There
that
we go.
system. So not everybody in the world
It's not the video that's too quiet. Since Mike in particular is very quiet.
has to follow my system, but everybody in my system or in my tribe would have a uniform morality. They would have the same rules and ordinances, whether on punitive justice, crime, sexual ethics, or anything like that. That would be uniform morality.
So to be clear, a morality is uniform if the same rule set applies to everyone.
If the same rule set applies to everyone who's a part of that tribe, not everybody is a part of obviously the same position that I hold. So
That's
people who
even-
are not wouldn't be a part of that. And
Yeah, so I have an even stronger than uniform. I have a thing which is not just uniform; it is uniform, and also it even goes further because it applies to all agents. So my moral system is just that there's a sole rule, which is that you ought maximize utility. If you're not doing it, you're doing something morally wrong, right? So one uniform moral rule, it applies to all agents. Maximize means that you have that already gives you the catch conditions for any of the unintuitive things you might be thinking of, like, oh, what about cases where like somebody can't do that much good? Well, by definition, you can always maximize, right? So
okay. Was that it? You were just giving me the definition on that?
I was giving you a counter argument to the thing you said in your opening.
Right. Well, what I was going to add on to truth was, so I'm vaguely familiar with this maximize argument. And I believe in an argument or discussion you had with T-Jump
That's all
a
good,
few months
serious.
ago on this channel. You'd mentioned something about maximizing somebody's potential to enjoy life or view things as part of your morality system. So
That was
allowing, let's
T-Jump's
say, a
view.
child. Well, then what is your view on that? Let's say you can save a child, right? Or you could not save a child. If you
Yeah, you're
save the
obligated to
child,
save the child
right? But why? And what is the moral
because it maximizes
benefit
utility.
to that? Okay, can
The
you give
utility
me
maximization.
right? But can you tell me why that is to that scenario?
Because if you're dead, you can't experience things, and utility is a type of experience. So
Okay.
you'd have to be alive for it. So
Okay.
not saving children is bad.
But why should I care what's good or bad, though?
Well, if by care you mean something like...
Well,
why
hang
should I
on. Wait.
prefer what's
No,
good or
no,
bad?
we're in like Eutherford territory now, though. If you need to be alive for it, then once they're dead, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to call it bad because the loss of it's the utility of a subject, right? So this is why utilitarianism makes a lot of sense as a political ethic, but not like a Robinson Crusoe one where you're the only person there, because you can measure the utility for the community, and therein you can find a lack of utility or negative utility in the death of children, but not simply because another human's life might not have utility for you. And which one is to be privileged, or why would the generality be privileged? Sunday, the losses in the potential utility they could have had. Yeah, but what obligates us to maximize potential utility of others, right?
Bad. Well, you should prefer it because should, by definition, is going to be about good or bad. So if you're asking
Right.
if you're asking if you do, no, I think there are plenty of evil people in the world who don't care about good or bad. It's
Oh,
just that
I
we don't-
agree. I'm
Yeah, but-
saying, but why should I? Why should I be moral at all? What's the point of me being moral? What
Ah, here we
benefit
go.
does
should
that have
by
for me?
definition, yeah, by definition, you should be moral. That's what should means.
No, because you can should with respect to an end, right? So maybe if you want to win at chess, you should develop your pawns carefully, but that doesn't mean you have an obligation to develop your pawns carefully. Are obligations all definitionally moral? I'll have to think about that.
Why though?
Because that's what should means.
I
That's
know
the
but
definition of the word.
what is the benefit to me for being moral?
Oh, I
Let me
don't
put it that
care
way.
if there is. There are cases where there isn't a benefit for you, to you for being moral.
So what's the benefit to society in that point?
The benefit to society overall is that it's utility maximizing. I don't really care about it. I think if a society was not benefited
Wait, no. But if the benefit to society would not be that it's utility maximizing. It being utility maximizing is what would make it a benefit to society. Okay.
by acting morally, I think the society shouldn't be benefited.
Okay. I thought that the original. I mean, there are certain cases with no benefit, though, when we're talking about this subject. And what I meant earlier when I said, why should I care? What would
No
be the
benefit to
benefit
anyone,
me?
or no benefit to the person doing the action?
Does it benefit you to be a moral, upstanding person under, again, I'm going to be sensitive with the wording here because of this channel. Would it benefit you to be moral under 1930s German oppression and get arrested by those people?
I'm not sure. I think so, but I'm not sure. It's an empirical.
But you didn't
question,
save
like,
anyone's lives. Just you being not a part of it. Is that beneficial to anybody?
Oh, that's not
including
sufficient to
you?
be moral. You have to save lives to be moral. If it's the case that you can save a life and you choose not to out of selfishness, you're doing something moral.
Okay. So if you don't save a life or something of that matter, that's not moral enough.
Your question was what?
I'm saying you said that unless you had saved a life in that scenario, then it wouldn't have really mattered in your system.
Yeah,
of
you're
morality.
obligated to do the best you can with the cards you're dealt under utilitarianism, yeah. So if it's the case that you can save lives and you choose not to, you're doing something morally wrong. So
it's not
like,
moral
like
then.
the drowning child situation, right? If you see a drowning child in a lake and you're like, I don't want to go in because I might ruin my expensive shoes, you're doing something heinous.
I see. But you just said it's not moral to. Well, you didn't say immoral, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that. But you did not say that it's moral to oppose 1930s Germanism, even if it doesn't save lives. So there's no moral benefit to that at all.
You asked what is the benefit to you? I'm telling you that like the benefit.
No,
to you
let's
doesn't
say
matter
that
morally.
you are actually there. Is there anything moral about what you are doing if you oppose 1930s Germanism, but you haven't
course,
saved any
yes.
lives?
Yeah, like, even if you just oppose it and you don't save any lives, if it's the case that that's the best you could do in the situation, then you're doing what's moral. If it's the case you could do more and you choose not to out of laziness and you're just like, I just don't like the Nazis. I'm not gonna, or sorry, I don't like the those people, right? I'm not gonna do anything about it. Right? I'm just gonna sit around talking shit about them or something. Well, then you know you're not really doing something moral or altruistic or worth like a pat on the back for it. No, but
Okay,
I don't.
if you
Not sure exactly where this is going.
got it. One last question on this subject then.
Yeah, sure.
If you went to their meetings, let's say you went to one of these meetings and they're all drinking beer, and you go to the meeting to refute them, just to refute their ideology, but there's no lives in danger, nobody's being killed, is that action moral?
All else equal, probably, yeah. Unless there's some other kind of consideration there.
Okay. Can you tell me like how you would calculate whether or not that's moral though, in that scenario particularly?
Just what's the evidence you have on what's utility maximizing?
I'm just saying that if it causes,
No, I was answering
let's
your
say
question.
that what you
That's
did,
the way you determine it. I'm not asking. I wasn't asking that as a question. I'm telling you.
Got it.
This is the way you do it.
what if it caused harm though? What if you going there to oppose the 1930s Germans, they were angered by your activity, and then they went to go oppress some minorities, and that event
And you have
ended up
evidence to
causing
believe
harm.
this?
Yes, let's say there's 100%
then
evidence.
you're being stupid and immoral. Yeah.
Okay, so that would be immoral to go to their meeting and refute them if you were not saving a life, given the potential for them to go and lash out against someone else.
That wasn't the same argument. No, you didn't say potential, right? You said they would do it. It's a difference.
All right, let's
between
say they
them doing
100%
and there being
did
a
it,
Potential of them doing it.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's say
then it
they
would be
100%
immoral. Yeah.
did it.
If I went and antagonized, so imagine somebody's like beating a person to death with a shovel, right? And like somebody they might possibly live. And then I start like antagonizing them, like, "Oh, you're beating that person weakly. You look stupid right now. You look like an idiot beating that person with a shovel. You're swinging like a girl. Like, yeah, obviously it's morally wrong. Yeah, like going to antagonize people as opposed to going to do something with the actual goal of maximizing utility or doing the best you can with the hand you're dealt. No, you're not doing. Yeah, that'd be an issue on utilitarianism.
Got it.
But I don't understand if is that supposed to be like you think that's like a reductio against the view, or are you just curious?
I was just curious. I guess one last thing, and then I'll let you fire a bunch at me, would be, what if you had a massive platform, like a YouTube channel with 10 million subscribers, and you, let's just say YouTube existed in this time period, and you could refute these 1930s German people, and you were arrested, and it didn't save anybody. but it didn't necessarily cause anybody to be killed either. Would what you were doing, those refutations, would they be moral? Just online refuting?
Yeah. All else equal, it seems like it's just neutral. You'd have to give me, like, is there anything better you could have done in this situation?
Okay, I'm really bored by this. We're going to move on to this one, because I'm actually curious about this. And we're going to close off Disco Elysium, because I'm going to need to focus on this guy. So, we'll put you back over here. And, yeah. This is only 5 minutes long, thank God. Is this a short version of a longer video? No? Good, it is short, so we'll be able to end off early. My voice is going really fast, so this works perfectly fine by me. Put the theory bar away. Thank you so much for your donations today. We did not hit the goal, but that's fine. So here we have... By Mono, the is-ought gap is vacuous. It's apparently a paper by C. Pigden. I don't know who that is. Let me take a quick look online. C. Pigden. Charles Pigden. Senior lecturer in the Department of Philosophy at the University of Otago, New Zealand. Seems like a nice guy. Alright. Let's see what this is all about.
If it's a statement of faith and it's in the value domain, how is it derivable from fact?
No ought statement can be logically derived from is statement.
I don't think you can get an ought from an is. You can't do it. Hume's right.
It is impossible to bridge an is-ought gap. That can never possibly be bridged.
Appealing to the is-ought problem is an internet favorite way of undermining moral realism of a naturalist kind. The so-called is-ought gap has been used or cited in some way or another by YouTube giants such as Jordan Peterson, Cosmic Skeptic, Rationality Rules, and Destiny. The main gist of the argument is that if we're going to have a valid deductive argument with a moral conclusion, there must be at least one moral statement in the premises. Or more briefly, we can't get any ought statements out of is statements. No oughts from is, no normative statements from descriptive statements. Given its use by YouTube titans, I don't say this sarcastically, by the way. I mean, these guys are brilliant YouTubers, certainly much better than me.
No, don't be a sycophant to these guys. They're terrible. Everyone you've mentioned is terrible. They all suck. They're all brain dead.
It may seem that the is-ought problem is some kind of very compelling argument that moral realists struggle to overcome. And you know, indeed, sometimes this is the case. But is the is-ought problem really this impenetrable bastion that it is sometimes made out to be? An initial clue of possible shortcomings regarding the is-ought problem is given to us from surveys of professional philosophers, in which a plurality of them favour moral naturalism. If the is-ought gap was such a smackdown argument, why would the most popular meta-ethical position among professional philosophers be moral naturalism? Essentially the opposite of what the is-ought gap is arguing for. Something doesn't quite seem to add up here. Indeed, there are numerous papers that claim to have solved the is-ought problem, so much so that there are even gags about it in the literature. Presently, we will focus on a very powerful argument, in my opinion, made in a paper entitled Logic and the Autonomy of Ethics. In the paper, the author Charles Pigden humorously claims the following: that conclusions concerning hedgehogs cannot be logically derived from hedgehog-free premises. To exemplify, suppose we want to construct an argument with a conclusion concerning hedgehogs from hedgehog-free premises. We can keep on adding premises with as many details as we want, but we will quickly realize that without using the word hedgehog somewhere in the premises, we will technically never be able to obtain a valid argument with a conclusion regarding hedgehogs. We can even add what amount to synonyms for the word hedgehog, like erinaceous, but without a specific premise that says that an animal belonging to the erinaceous family is essentially a hedgehog, we will still not obtain a hedgehog conclusion. This, Pigden explains, is because logic is conservative, and this holds true even in the case of morals, as the is-ought gap points out. In other words, morality is logically autonomous, but hedgehoggery is also similarly autonomous, and hundreds of thousands of other things too. Pigden's ingenious way to defeat the is-ought gap is not to show that it doesn't work, rather to show that it works a bit too well, and we are now left with hundreds of thousands of gaps that are all due to the conservativeness of logic. Yet nobody goes around proposing a fact-hedgehog distinction or a fact-marbles distinction. To quote Pigden himself,
What?
hedgehog conclusions cannot be derived from hedgehog-free premises, but this does not entail that there is a realm of irreducible hedgehog facts. So why should we posit a realm of irreducible moral facts to explain why ought cannot be derived from is?
Because ought statements are not merely descriptive. They also they characterize unaccomplished tasks or duties or things like that. As such, when you're describing an is, you are not describing necessarily what follows after it or what should follow after it. They are of different kinds. Like the reason why it's irreducible to descriptions of some world state is because they aren't descriptions of some world state at all. But a description of a hedgehog is. Like a hedgehog is of the same substance of the world. You can describe a hedgehog as a situation, not merely as not like as a separate entity from the world. I don't know.
What we are getting at in more technical terms is that the logical autonomy of ethics does not imply the ontological autonomy of ethics. Or
say this again, sorry.
The technical terms is that the logical autonomy of ethics does not imply the ontological autonomy of ethics.
Okay, but the is-ought problem does not insist necessarily, well, it doesn't insist at all, that what ought to be is in some sense independent. What it says is that you as, like, epistemologically, you cannot derive the ought from the is. That's what the is-ought gap is. It's a gap. It's not saying that the ought is non-existent.
Oughts and ises are logically autonomous, but this does not imply that oughts live in distinct, different, unique realms. Ultimately, one might be now tempted to say, okay, there are all these other gaps. The fact hedgehog gap, the fact poo-poo gap, etc.
Hang on, but that's not a gap, though. What's the logic and the autonomy of ethics? Can somebody find me this? I'm going to put this in the Discord quickly. Somebody get me a copy of this essay. I want to see it. Get me a copy of this. I'll give it a couple seconds.
But the is-ought gap is simply different. Ises are simply too different than oughts. And you are perfectly allowed to make this claim. But notice that now you can't go back to use the is-ought problem to support this claim. You have to come up with some other argument.
But that's an argument to support the claim. The claim supports the argument. The point is that these don't seem to... You simply don't derive... So, you are faced with a dilemma. You need to make choice A or choice B. Somebody tells you No, you have an ethical obligation to do choice A. Somebody else says you have an ethical obligation to do choice B, and they're working from the same facts of the matter. But how they determine what the good decision is differs. You can't derive from the facts of the matter, which are identical to both, which one of these is correct. You'll have to use some other line of reasoning. That's the point.
Yeah, so that's about it for me. You can check out the paper in the description. I just made a very brief summary. There's all of the details.
Alright. But look here. I was just kidding in the video. The paper is not available online for free, so no link. I think this is it. Logic and the Autonomy of Ethics. Here, let's, In every system of morality I have hitherto met, I have always remarked that the author proceeds for some time in the ordinary way of reasoning, and establishes the being of a god, or makes observations concerning human affairs, when of a sudden I am surprised to find... Oh wait, this is from Treatise. This is from Hume. Is there an abstract? In this paper, I defend Prior's earlier logical thesis, albeit in a modified form, against his later self, but it is important to distinguish this version of autonomy from two others with which it is commonly confused. Is there a logical gap between fact and value? Is and ought. Many have supposed that this is what the debate between naturalists and anti-naturalists is all about, but this is a mistake, for there are in fact three forms of autonomy: ontological, semantic, and logical, and naturalism is only compatible with the first. Is only incompatible with the first. Okay. Ontological autonomy is the thesis that moral judgments, to be true, must answer to a realm of sui generis, non-natural properties. Semantic autonomy insists on a realm of sui generis, non-natural predicates, which do not mean the same as any natural counterparts. Logical autonomy maintains that moral conclusions cannot be derived from non-moral premises. Appropriately qualified, I believe in all three, with the proviso that there is no such realm of moral properties as ontological autonomists suppose. But it is important to see how they are related. Returning from the austere realm of logic to the lush pastures of ethics, we can vindicate Prior and Hume. They were right to rest the autonomy of ethics on the conservativeness of logic. As redefined, this does debar the types of inferences to which they were opposed. Prior supports a wide range of philosophers, including Cudworth, Hume, and Reid, against those who wish to derive obligations from God's commands, the dictates of the sovereign, or what will produce the maximum of pleasure. None of these latter would have been happy to replace the goods and oughts which occur in the conclusions with random grammatical equivalents. Had they known of the notion of inference relative vacuity, they would have striven to avoid it. So if they do propound deductive arguments which defy logical autonomy, and of this I am a little doubtful, then either the inferences are invalid or the moral words can be replaced, for instance, by their opposites. But the logical autonomy of morals is a less impressive trait than some have supposed. It is too widely shared. Other forms of discourse, hedgehog talk for instance, are similarly autonomous. No conclusions which non-vacuously contain the predicate "is a hedgehog" can be validly derived from premises which don't. The conservativeness of logic ensures this as well. Moral talk is no more or less autonomous than the other. Autonomy is too common to confer distinction. But the issue is not distinctiveness. The issue is that there's an epistemological gap that you can't traverse. That's the problem. So it doesn't seem like... my voice is too far gone to go through this all thoroughly. But it doesn't seem like the argument is that you can traverse the gap. It seems like the argument is that the gap is just not unique. But that's not very interesting at all. So the Izzot gap isn't vacuous. The Izzot gap is just one of a kind of things, of a kind of problem, which are gaps. The video's problem here is that the paper is being misused. This is an argument the Izzot problem doesn't favor non-naturalism, not a refutation of Izzot. Yeah, that's my read of it. I don't want to go through this right now because I'm extraordinarily tired. My voice is gone, as you can hear, and I don't want to do this author a disservice. But this video, when I read the Izzot gap is vacuous, and I specifically criticize people for invoking it, I am thinking that this person is saying the Izzot gap isn't a gap or isn't a problem. But that's not what the paper does. The paper seems to be a lot more careful than that. Anyways, I'm calling it for tonight. Where am I going to send you all? Let's see. Just a short stream. We're going to do a couple of these because I'm still recovering from COVID. And the last time I streamed for 5 hours, I was so bloody sick afterwards. Let's see, who have we got? Demon Mom, are you streaming tonight? Let's see. Nope. How about Rico? Nope. Aiko rules. Aiko is starting up in 22 minutes. Go say hi for me. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.